the Nonprofit Podcast, powered by DonorBox.
Crafting compelling fundraising appeals may seem like a daunting task, but it is essential for the success of your nonprofit. Welcome to the Nonprofit Podcast. I'm Kara. I'm a nonprofit leader and fundraiser, and I have the honor of serving as podcast correspondent for DonorBox. We're here each week with practical actions you can use today to increase donations and take your nonprofit to the next level tomorrow. Last week, I just couldn't get enough of Jenna and Maria Bryan's podcast episode about really great storytelling and how it can make a difference in fundraising. This week, we piggyback on that episode and take it a little further to talk about how to craft effective fundraising appeals for your nonprofit. I just got my spring fundraising appeal out the door and into mailboxes, and I'm working to syndicate all my work into follow-up emails and social media posts, all with the hope I'll really move the needle for my organization with some fundraising this spring. So today we'll tackle the anatomy of a good fundraising appeal, and then I have some good ideas that might amplify that messaging so you can raise more money. Let's start with Fundraising 101. It's difficult to talk about storytelling and writing fundraising appeals without fully understanding what a fundraising appeal is, isn't it? So let's break it down. What exactly is a fundraising appeal? Well, let me start by telling you what it's not. It's not your donation page. Jenna and I hosted a fundraising appeal workshop, and we asked organizations to submit their last fundraising appeal, and many just sent the URL to their donation page. Nope, that is not a fundraising appeal. A fundraising appeal is an intentional outbound ask for donations for your campaign. It's a carefully crafted message that prompts donors to take action. Every appeal you write should follow the same basic outline or flow. You start by addressing the problem, then present your organization's solution to that problem. Next, you clearly state your desired response or call to action. And then finally, you wrap it up by showing donors how their contribution will make an impact. So, in every appeal, you must present 1, the big problem you're trying to solve, 2, your unique approach to solving it, and 3, how the supporter or donor can specifically help. For example, in my organization, poverty is skyrocketing right now. There are more families than ever who are turning to my organization for extra help each week. My organization does a really great job of making sure that groceries go in carts and onto kitchen tables, and that individuals are met with some tools to help really create some sustainable long-term life change. And then I ask my supporters to step alongside and make an additional gift this spring to help meet that overwhelming need. So that's an example of the big problem I'm trying to solve. Poverty is high. Your unique approach to solving it. We have food and some connection to life care, and how the supporter or donor can specifically help. Well, they can give this spring. So does that make sense? Once we have that core, we can really add in some attributes to really make it shine. I have 3 attributes here that can really shake up your fundraising appeals. But first, here's a question for you. When communicating with your supporters, which approach do you think is more powerful? Saying we or saying you? It's definitely you. Donors want to feel like partners in your mission, not just passive supporters. It's always about the person and not about the transaction of the gift. So that's why it's essential to practice some donor-centered fundraising through your writing. So our first tip to enhance your fundraising appeals is this: be sure to use the word you way more in your fundraising appeals than the word we. For example, you could say this: we rescued 500 dogs last year. We took care of them until they found good homes. Or you could say, when you gave last year, you made sure 500 dogs found their forever homes. Which one is more powerful? Yeah, it's for sure the one that uses the word you way more than the word we. In fact, when I write fundraising appeals, I challenge myself to make sure I never use the word we or our. If it's in the letter, if it's in that fundraising appeal, it gets revised until it is out. So next, our number 2, let's discuss the tone of your appeals. When reaching out to potential donors for the first time, it really can be challenging to strike the balance between friendliness and professionalism. So remember, the more personal and sincere you can make your appeal, the better. Really authentic communication stands out in a world of noise. Many organizations overlook this, but it really is a game changer for donor engagement. Would you rather read something stuffy or relatable? Next up is my third tip, and that's personalize, personalize, personalize. So first, be sure to identify some specific segments of your donor base, and then use that to personalize appeals that are tailored to their interests, to their demographics, or their giving history. By delivering relevant content directly to the right audience, you can significantly increase the likelihood of a positive response. For instance, I had a group of donors who recently gave to support a family in an emergency situation. In my spring fundraising appeal letter to them, I shared how our organization serves hundreds of families each week. I knew they were interested in helping families, so I tailored the copy of my letter to them. And then I have monthly donors. I wanted to ask if they'd make an additional one-time donation this spring to meet the increased need. I adjusted the copy to say that their regular support was the fuel that kept the organization running all year long, and then I asked for that extra gift. The core of the letter for the donors who supported the families and the letter to the donors who give monthly, that core of the letter was the same. I just altered the wording of one or two paragraphs in the letter to tailor the copy to the donor's interests. Oh, and always be sure to address your appeals to a person. Like you should always say, Dear Sue, never say Dear Donor or Dear Fred. And if you've never written a fundraising appeal, be prepared to write and rewrite many of them. The first few letters you write won't be as good as they could be, and that's okay, because the more letters you write, the better you'll get at writing them. You can really improve your fundraising appeal by first referring to an anatomy of a good fundraising appeal from DonorBox. We have that in a blog post that we'll be sure to share with you. Be sure to read other fundraising letters to see what appeals to you. I often make small contributions to organizations that I admire and then enjoy reading what they send me as a follow-up. And sometimes I exemplify some of the same things that they're doing. I also encourage you to read some fundraising books. Mal Warwick has a really good fundraising book called How to Write Successful Fundraising Appeals. There's a lot of really other good books out there for that. Be sure to look at sample fundraising letters online and then ask coworkers and friends, especially if they fall in your target demographic, to proofread your letter and give you feedback. Okay, I know that's a lot, but here's a recap. So first, get the core of your message, what you're doing, why you're doing it, and then dress it up using some donor-centered language, use some relatable language, and then personalize, personalize, personalize. Don't be afraid to write and rewrite. Okay, now that you've got your fundraising appeal written, put all that hard work to good use and amplify your efforts. You might ask, what tactics and forms of outreach are really making waves in the nonprofit sector right now? And here's what is working. Here's what I'm seeing is working really well. And that's multi-channel fundraising campaigns. So sharing similar messaging across various platforms, whether that's web, email, direct mail, social media, sharing that same message across all those channels is really a must. And they're called multi-channel fundraising campaigns. Numbers don't lie about this. Multi-channel donors give 300% more than single channel donors. And yet, surprisingly, only 3% of nonprofits are sending multi-channel communications. So it really is time to tap into this strategy for your organization. And it's backed by some marketing research. We know that in marketing, repetition is key. It takes nearly 8 impressions of a message before somebody takes action, and that's why that multi-channel outreach is so valuable. Plus, different supporters have different preferences, so you cover all your bases to maximize that impact. So, here are some tips about multi-channel campaigns. First, I encourage you to invest in direct mail. And believe it or not, direct mail is appealing to Gen Z. Recent research shows that Gen Z and millennial recipients have a higher conversion rate with direct mail. Well, why? Well, for those digital natives, direct mail is unique and it's novel. They crave authentic stories from real people, and direct mail is a really great way to deliver those. And then when you create a direct mail piece, remember, pretty doesn't always equal effective. Make your text easy to read, give it room to breathe, highlight some key messages, and when it comes to fonts and colors, just really prioritize readability and contrast. It doesn't have to look pretty. You just need to have really compelling words on the page. And then syndicate your direct mail piece into email. I like to use 2 or 3 follow-up emails for every direct mail letter I send. And why email? Well, it's budget friendly. It reaches your audience quickly. It's easy to track and segment. And plus, there's some really great automation tools that streamline your communication. But how do you measure success with email? Well, keep an eye on those open rates, the click-through rates, and some industry benchmarks. See how you compare to some of your peers. And then what makes a good email? Well, 3 things make a good email. So first, like Maria and Jenna talked about last week on the Nonprofit Podcast, storytelling is crucial for email success, especially in fundraising appeals. So start with a compelling story that highlights the impact of donor contributions. And then next, don't forget those visuals. For email, visuals are key. In direct mail, I rarely use a picture or a visual unless it's an insert of some sort. But for email, it's totally okay to use photos and videos because they can really enhance your message and drive engagement. And then tip number 3 for making your email stand out, I'm starting to sound like a broken record probably, and it's personalization again. Personalization is key to email effectiveness. Segment your audience, tailor your messages to their interests and preferences, and don't forget to test your emails. What works for one audience might not work for another. Email is terrific, but then you move into social media. You'll syndicate those emails into social media. Social media is great because it's free. It's ideal for really urgent messaging, and it really helps expand your reach to new audiences. You can use some analytics that are free in a lot of the social media platforms to really understand what's resonating with your followers. And don't forget the power of visuals. They are really key to engagement through social media, even more than email. So finally, my last tip is that repurposing your content is a time saver and a message amplifier. Use your fundraising appeal across multiple channels from direct mail to email to social media to reinforce your message and drive action. You might think you're saying the same thing over and over, but you're the only one who's really noticing it all. That repetition is what will capture your donors' attention. If you'd like to learn more about the anatomy of an effective fundraising appeal, DonorBox's content and marketing expert, Kara Schmid, has a great resource on the DonorBox blog for you all about appeal writing. From personalization to attention-grabbing copy to a strong call to action, there are several key elements to keep in mind, and she addresses all of those. We'll be sure to link that information for you in the show notes. So be sure to pick that up before you sign off. And thank you for choosing to spend your time today with the Nonprofit Podcast. I hope you've left with the confidence to take a small step today that will make a big difference tomorrow. Be sure to click the download button on your podcast player, then leave the Nonprofit Podcast a review, or give it a thumbs up if you're listening to the Nonprofit Podcast on YouTube. Your review really is a great way to help others find us. You're here to help others, and we're here to help you. So until next time, stay inspired.
That warm feeling when you help someone, it's not just happiness, it's fulfillment. And we believe it should be available to everyone, from frontline heroes to first-time fundraisers. Our tools empower you to help others. This is our mission. This is DonorBox, helping you help others.